Hey everyone, it's Kevin coming to you from the state of Maryland. Thanks for tuning in. Today's video is going to be about free kicks. Now, why free kicks? Well, you can ask any head coach or any coach that's involved in high school football. The kicking game can have huge implications on a contest. So for officials, we have to be on our mark. We have to know what we're doing, and we have to be able to react quickly and correctly when we're talking about the kicking game. For coaches, I want to break down the rule, dissect a little bit, so you have a better understanding of what's allowed, what's not allowed, so we can preventive officiate and prevent you from having a huge foul enforced against you in a tight game. So, Rule 6, that's the kicking game, right? It's only about 5 pages long. It doesn't seem like it's that tough, but it's probably the most densely packed rule in the rule book, and there's just a lot of information in there, and the best thing to do is keep on going back, reading through that, so you become a master of it and understand everything. Furthermore, Rule 6 doesn't even cover everything on free kicks and kickoffs. There's also Rule 9, which talks about contact during these kicks. So we have to implement that into our training today. So we're going to take a look at it. I want to remind everyone, when I tell people about high school football, I always say there's a balance between offense and defense. That's the way the National Federation wants it to be. It's not like the NFL where everything is offensive driven. There's balance between offense and defense. However, in the kicking game, we have to remember the rule book wants the receiving team to be able to put the ball into play to a point. So we have to allow that receiving team a fair chance to get that ball. So you have to remember that when you're talking about these rules and going through those scenarios. So we're going to start off with everything before the snap, and then we're going to move on and we're going to look at we're going to look at everything that happens before the kick and our requirements that we must have before the kick, and then we're going to move on to talking about during the kick. When we talk about free kicks, we want to remember that both teams have a free kick line. In this case over here, the team in white, they are kicking to the gray team over here. Each team has a free kick line. All right, this is the neutral zone. It's always going to be 10 yards apart. So no matter what, the neutral zone is always 10 yards apart. The free kick lines are always 10 yards apart, regardless of where we're kicking from. A few requirements that have been placed in the last few years. One, the kicking team. They must have, at minimum, at least 4 players on each side of the kicker, okay? So they've got, looks like they've got 5 on each side of the kicker here, so they're good to go. The other restriction, these players on the kicking team can be no more than 5 yards past their free kick line. So they are not allowed to touch this 35-yard line with their foot. Now, officials, these are things that we need to address before the kick, before they're ready for play, so we need to get them lined up and prevent this. We shouldn't be calling these types of fouls. We should be preventive officiating that. The kicker may go back as far as he wants. So if he wishes to go back as far as he wants, he certainly can do that. But everyone else has to be within 5 yards. If anyone else were to kick this ball, then that would be a foul for a free kick infraction. So only the kicker can go back more than 5 yards, 4 on each side. Finally, when we're looking at this, we have to pay close attention. I'm not going to get into the debate of mechanics, but most officials, associations, most states, they're going to place at least one official on each free kick line, and that's where we're looking for encroachment. The majority of the time that you're going to see encroachment is going to be by the kicking team. One of these guys on the end, they're usually faster, they're more athletic, but sometimes they may come across a step before the ball is kicked. You don't see encroachment by the receiving team very often, but it could be possible, especially in short kick situations or onside kick situations. So it's just something that you want to be mindful of. If you're in the state of Maryland, the state of Maryland's mechanics manual actually says if these kickers are a half a step off or half a step over, we're not going to call that encroachment. We're going to preventive officiate and try to prevent it again, as long as it's a long kick. So we will let the one-time encroachment go if it's a deep kick and there's no advantage gained. But if any of these kickers encroach even by half a step on a short kick, then we need to blow it dead and kill it. Recently placed into the rules, I believe it started in 2017, was the pop-up kick. That was added to the definitions, and then the rule book made it illegal. So a pop-up kick is a ball, a free kick ball, which goes directly into the ground and then bounces up high. And we're going to take a look at this. This is the classic example of a pop-up kick. And we're going to take a look at this. Watch the ball. It goes directly, frame by frame, into the ground and then bounces up high. That is going to be a dead ball foul. We are going to kill this right now as soon as we see that ball go up high. And the reason being, this was a safety rule. You can see that now this guy is in a vulnerable position, and one of these receivers could come down here and hit him. So that is why we have gotten rid of the pop-up kick. So that is now allowed. Now we want to be clear about a few things. Is if this ball were to travel to here, hit the ground, and go up high, that's going to be a nothing. Or if it were to bounce several times low and then go high, that's going to be a nothing. We're looking for the ball that goes directly to the ground and then high up in the air, and this is a classic example, and we'll show this one more time. Dead ball, that's it. So we've talked about encroachment, we've talked about the pop-up kick, the requirements for the free kickers, and now we're going to move on to some of the other stuff. This is going to be first touching of a free kick, all right? So first touching of a free kick, that applies to the kicking team. When the kicking team touches the ball before it's gone 10 yards, it will be first touching. And we're going to watch this here. White team's kicking the gray. Ball is right there. It's about the 48-yard line. We have number 3 in white touching this ball before it goes 10 yards. Now, this is not a foul, okay? So, officials, you're going to put down your beanbag right here about the 48-yard line where this number 3 in white touches the ball. We're going to watch the action continue. And then from here, because we now have first touching of the kick at about the 48-yard line, if this guy in gray falls on it at the 47 or whatever, we can move the ball up 5 yards and put it at the 48 if that's the choice that the gray team would like to do. Or in this case, if white were to recover this football, we would kill the play, we would point the direction in white, but because we have first touching back here at the 48-yard line, most likely the gray team is going to say, hey, no, we don't want white team to have it, we want the ball, we're going to take it at the spot of first touching. So first touching, it occurs on a free kick in the neutral zone. It's going to be, first touching is going to be by the white team before the ball goes 10 yards. Move on, and we're going to talk about when the kickers can actually recover a free kick. And notice I said the word recover, not catch. So this is very important in deciding, making decisions for officials. And coaches, you also need to be aware of this. Most people understand that the ball must travel at least 10 yards before the kickers can recover it. And it also has to be grounded. So before this kicking team can recover this ball, it must travel 10 yards past our free kick line, and it must be on the ground. Once it goes that far and it's on the ground, the kickers are free to recover that ball. And if they get it there, it's their ball right when they recover it. Please remember, the kicking team can never advance a kick, so it would be dead where they recover it at. If the kickers, and we're going to go back to the free touching, if the kickers were to touch this grounded ball anywhere in here before it goes 10 yards, we're going to put a beanbag down, and that's going to be first touching. And they may, the receivers can take the ball at the spot of first touching. You can have multiple spots of first touching. The kickers may possess a free kick. And that's after the ball's been touched by the receivers. So If this ball, whether it's a pop-up kit or whether it goes straight up in the air or whether it's some type of squib, if one of these players in here comes in and touches this ball here, then the kicking team is free to recover this. So if R is the first ones to touch a free kick, then it becomes anyone's ball. The next person to get land on the ball or pick it up or recover it, it's going to be their ball. I want to remind everyone that we're going to get rid of all this for just a second. If we had a squib kick in here, and this gentleman here, he decides to come in here and he's just standing there and he's looking at the ball, kind of just bouncing around like this, and a member of the kicking team were to come over and push him into the ball, that touching would be ignored. You cannot push an opponent into the ball and it be considered a touch. In that case, the touching is ignored, and that's the same situation. It goes both ways. We have, let's just say we have a squib kick. All right, ball's down here. It's just lining around. This kicker, he's just coming here. He's just staring at the ball, looking at it, and a member of the receiving team comes in and blocks him into the ball. We're not going to have first touching of the kick. Okay, K may be the first one to touch this kick. K may, this guy who gets thrown on top of the bar, pushing on the ball, he may be the first one to touch it, but we're going to ignore that touching, and then we're just going to follow the action after. So these are all different than your higher levels. If you are pushed into the ball by an opponent, we're going to ignore that touching. All right. While we're here, we're also going to talk about contact in the neutral zone. And this is when we have to get into Rule 9 and talk about this type of stuff. Rule 9 states that the kickers may not contact any receivers until the ball has gone 10 yards or a member of the receiving team has touched the ball, or a member of the receiving team has initiated contact. So let's just pretend we got an onside kick here. All right, ball's kind of rolling around. One of my members from the receiving team is in here. He's just standing around, and we have a member of K come down and block him. Now, it doesn't matter if it's a personal foul. It doesn't matter, if it's any type of contact, even if it's just a push from the front, it's going to be an illegal block. The kicking team is not allowed to contact the receivers until the ball has gone 10 yards, it's been touched, or the ball has been touched by R. The only other exception to that is if R comes in here and initiates contact with K. So, we have that onside kick. Ball is just kind of hanging out in here. Our kickers are coming down here. They're looking. They're not trying to do anything just yet. And we have one member of R. He comes out here and he wants to block. He initiates this block. Once he initiates that block, any of these kickers can come down here and initiate blocks with Team R. Now, that is all based on that all the blocks are legal. Above the waist, there's no personal fouls, no blindside blocks, all that type of stuff. We're not allowing personal fouls here, but we're allowing blocking. So once R steps up and initiates a block in this neutral zone, then anyone from K can block the members of R. The only other time that K can initiate blocks or start blocking in the neutral zone is when R touches the ball. So we're going to do the next scenario. Ball onside kick. It's bouncing around in here. R comes in here. He muffs the ball. Once he does that, then all these members of K may come back down and initiate blocks on the receivers. I want to make this clear that these guys, we're looking at still shots because I don't have a lot of film of all this stuff, of these things happening. But obviously these members of the K team would be moving down the field with the ball. And it's all okay. They're just not allowed to they shouldn't be touching the ball before it goes 10 yards. They shouldn't be touching the ball in the air, and they should not be blocking any of these members of Team R in here. Once R initiates contact, the receiving team can initiate contact on the kicking team. That's not a foul, and once they do that, then K is free to block them back and do what they have to do within the within the rules. No crazy blocks, nothing illegal, nothing dangerous, but K can do what they have to do in order to get this ball. So once again, just to recap, Team R can initiate blocks on Team K. Team K cannot initiate blocks on Team R. The only time Team K, the kickers, can start blocking Team R is if Team R touches the ball or Team R initiates contact in this neutral. All right, very quickly, one that we all know. This is going to be the free kick out of bounds. And we're going to watch the ball here kicked by K. Ball goes out of bounds. And remember, we have 4 options now. Accept the results of the play, which nobody does anymore. We can go 5 yards from the spot where the ball went out of bounds, which is in this area here. The officials will have a better spot than I do with this camera. Or you can go 25 yards, previous spot, or we still have the option of moving the kicking team back 5 yards and replaying the down. So that is a kick out of bounds. That's going to be your most common one. Usually a pretty easy call, usually a pretty objective call. The best thing I can tell officials know what the enforcements are, so you can make a decision quickly. And coaches, you want to be aware of the enforcements, because this is what you're going to see most commonly, and you can make a quick decision and we can go from there. Okay, well that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to publishing more videos. Please subscribe and leave any comments or questions below. Thanks again, everyone. See you soon.